Well, a warm welcome indeed. Thank you for being here. Get yourself ready with a notebook, grab a pencil or pen. Whatever you choose to write with is fine. This is math from the void. Math coming at you pretty much out of nowhere. And today we just have some pretty easy trick for, multiplying by 5. You see that? We're going to start off with something really easy here. And it's just kind of exploring what 5 is. So if it's tough for you to multiply 1,760 times 5, feel free to give it a shot. Hopefully you can get it in 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you couldn't get it in 4 seconds, of course this is just 8,800. If you couldn't get that in 4 seconds, maybe this video is for you. Maybe this video is to help you out. So we're going to start off with something that seems, just so obvious and almost unnecessary. 5, in case you didn't know, is half of 10, which means it's 10 divided by 2. Now, that's probably not that groundbreaking or mind-blowing. But we can use this to our advantage because it is really easy to multiply a number by 10. If you can't do that, you got to go back to 3rd grade for that or something. And it's also pretty easy to divide something by 2, to cut it in half. Now, not everyone is a pro at this. That's okay. You can practice and get better with time. But the idea is that we can take advantage of this unique representation of 5 so that when we're multiplying by 5, we're not really multiplying by 5. We're actually just multiplying by 10 and then dividing by 2, which is cutting a number in half. Okay. So let's start with something like 46 times 5. You guys might do this the traditional way, which is fine, to say, 5 times 4 is 20. So that's in the tens. And then 5 times 6 is 30. But if we can just remember that 5 is 10 divided by 2, this might be a little bit quicker. Let's take 46, and instead we're going to multiply it by 10. And we're going to divide by 2. So you can actually do this in whatever order you'd like. I'll show you the first way. We can do 46 times 10. You just slap a 0 at the end and divide by 2. Since these are even numbers, it's very easy to just divide them each by 2. We get 230. No surprise. The other option you have is to say, 46 divided by 2, again, really easy because these are even numbers. That's just 23. And then we can multiply by 10, just slap a 0 at the end of it. Pretty simple, right? So try that with a number like 494. This is a little bit tougher because dividing by 2, we have an odd number in there, so you just have to be a little bit careful. What's the trick here? Well, we're going to cut these in half, right? So we're definitely going to have a 2 here. What is half of that? Well, we're not going to be able to use half of that, unfortunately, right? Because, that's not an even number. 9 divided by 2 doesn't make an even number. So what do we do here? Well, we can't just cut this in half then, right? We can't just cut this in half. What we need to do instead is we need to take 1 from this 9 and call this a 14, and then we have an 8, and then we have a 4. And now it's much easier to cut these in half. See, we've solved the problem of having an odd number in place. We can just take 1 from that odd number and give it to the next guy down. So that's going to give us 2, 4, 7, and then we have to slap a 0. So see if you're getting the hang of this. I'm going to give you another one. We're going to do 394 times 5. So I want you to practice cutting this in half first. How do we cut this in half? Well, this wants to be a 2, and again, this wants to be, right? This wants to be an even number. So we can't say 9 over d. That's not a whole number. So what we're going to have to do here, right, is we're going to have to kind of borrow. This is going to become a 14. And then this is now going to become an 8. But there's a little bit of an issue there. What's the issue now? Well, the issue now is that 3 is not even. So how are we going to cut this number in half if there's not really anyone to give it to? Well, there is someone to give it to. We can give it to the 8. So instead of calling this a 3, we're going to call it a 2, and we're going to give 1 to the 8. So now we just have to cut these in half. 1, 9, 7, and slap a 0. Bam, that's 394 times 5. 1970. All right, I think the process is pretty clear. Let's give you a few to try. 652 times 5, and then I'll give you a big number here. 14368 times 5. I will give you 20 seconds or so, and let's see if you can figure these out. So you're going to want to cut these in half and then divide them by 10. I mean, multiply them by 10. So let's cut them in half first. This is odd, so we need to call it a 4 and a 12 and a 6. Those are easy to cut in half. That's going to give me 326 and slap a 0. Done. Next one, we have some nice even numbers here, so those are going to get slashed pretty nicely, but here we have our first problem. We have a 3 there, so we're going to have to change this, change it to a 2, and give a 1 to the 6. And then here we have 14, which you could just cut the 14 in half, but know that this is separate placeholders. So this is a 4, right? If we're giving a 1 away, we kind of just have a 0, and then this is a 14. So cut those in half. Of course, this is just 0. And that's going to give us 7, 1, 8, 4, and then slap a 0, and you've multiplied by 5. So I hope this trick is nice and simple, pretty easy. Get some practice with other numbers if you want. You can just look around any room, basically, and most rooms will have a number somewhere. If you have a box, if you have a bag, any kind of item, anything that's been purchased, a receipt, you can look at the receipt. There should be some numbers on it. Take any numbers you want, multiply it by 5. That way you can get some practice. And that way you'll start to be able to do this stuff in your head, which is the goal. Hope you learned something here. That's enough blab out of me. I'll see you guys next time.